Ryan, I think this was tremendous, but I think interestingly that because you compressed a 4 hour presentation into an hour, it gave the true effect of how overwhelming all this is.
Mm.
And it's really impactful. And I hope that people can take that impact. And I think the first step here is to realize the threat and how pervasive and wide ranging it is.
Hmm.
But then I think what we have to get to at some point, and I've seen some of the questions in the chat there, which is what do I do about it?
Right.
At a high level, do you have any comments about how individuals can approach it and how legislators trying to craft laws can think about themes in their life that they might be able to manage through this?
Well, yes, absolutely. And again, many thoughts on this. Starting with the last point, from a legislative position, I would argue that the best thing you could possibly do is to just aggressively side on everything, the Constitution, right? If it goes to a place where it is violating, regardless of the logic, it's about principle today. If it goes to a place where it is violating these foundational tenets of our society, then it has to be an absolute no. And I think that's the problem today, is that it's easy to rationalize why some of these things might be necessary. Take an example like a Neuralink. Yeah, maybe that'll make people walk again and save, they can move their arms. And I think that's fantastic. But it's also a lot of other things that overlap with it that are just as alarming, and we have to be aware of that. So it's once these things start rolling in a way that we're seeing, like introducing, people to these things in real life situations, like with, vaccines and food, for example, which is a real thing that is moving forward. Once that becomes something that we see, it has to be about the constitutionality of it, not the risk, not the worry. That would be my opinion. But I think that one thing I will say is it's very, I'm glad you brought that up, Tim, because I do think this can be overwhelming. It's an incredibly alarming thing. And it's not like, it's easy to say that we're being alarmist, right? But I think in some cases there are things that are alarming, right? We have to be real about what this is. And we shouldn't be hair on fire about it. Let's be logical and discerning and do our best to come to, real action. But recognize that it's a big thing and that it is a big deal, that it is alarming. But I'll end with is that I think the reason that we're doing this and the reason that we're having traction and people are carrying, because we're having momentum and people see it. What I'm saying is it's a positive note. It can feel really alarming, but recognize that regardless of all of the censorship, regardless of all of the financial suppression and everything that we're all dealing with, the message is still getting through. How powerful is that? That's what I think we should take home with us, is that in a situation where real change is beginning and people are genuinely asking questions they never have before, the power structures are going to do their best to make you feel uncomfortable.